So,
Cameron, how you doing? Go ahead, George.
so, welcome to another episode of Cameron. Thank you all for joining us, viewers. Myself, George Smith. We just go around.
Emmanuel Gazy.
Otis Green.
Tomas Martinez.
Tomas Martinez, man. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm so grateful to be in this space with all of you. We all walked in different spaces together. Just real quick, I just want to ask briefly how much time each one of us served. And I'll start, right? I'll say from 17 years old to approximately 43, so 25 years.
Me from 23 years old to 50 years old, 27 years.
For me, 25 to 47, which equated to 21 years, 7 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days.
That's right. Yeah, Tomas, from the age of 18 to 60 years old, 42 years.
42 years, 25, right? Like, look at all that math in between us, right? Just adding it all up. So I think tonight, man, I just want to ask just a simple question before we go into all the other stuff. Man, what does discipline mean to you? Just there. Discipline. What does discipline mean to you? Anybody jump in.
For me, discipline means structure. Drawing the sand and not drawing a line in the sand and not crossing it. Being able to stand your ground no matter what. And even if you tempt it, or if your mind tell you, your mind play tricks on you, just standing your ground and not crossing that line.
That's what's up.
I like that.
All right. I will say the ability to keep yourself on course after making the decision to do something that's positive.
Yeah.
Decision to stay on course after
The
committing.
ability.
The ability?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to keep yourself on course.
That's right. Tomas, what about you, brother?
Yeah, I definitely like both those answers. I would incorporate all of that in my answer, but if I could, right? But definitely, self-control. It allows me to have that self-control, that, really tighten myself up,
For sure, man. And I only asked that because I was talking to some kids in juvenile hall. You all know I go there every Saturday and Mondays and stuff, and I asked them that, like, what does discipline mean to you, right? And I love this one kid's analogy, right? This 16-year-old kid doing life in juvenile hall, right? Youth, YA life, right? And he says, man, I can't articulate it, but it reminds me of when we were playing football and we went against this team that just ran over us. We're out there on the field like chickens with our heads cut off, and this team was so organized and disciplined in what they were doing, right? That they smashed us because we weren't taking the time to practice, things of that nature, right? But these people, this team was just so on it, we didn't stand a chance. And I loved it, right? Because it's talking about setting healthy boundaries for myself, man, that align with my ultimate goal, with whatever it is, whatever commitment I made, and everything you all said, right? So my next question would tie to that. What does discipline look like for you, man, upon re-entering the community after serving a life sentence, man? What does your discipline look like? What's some of the struggles that you've faced since you've been home? What have been some of the barriers? What are some of the things where you just weren't as disciplined as you would like to have been, right? And let's just spitball that. Let's just process that, man, and see what come up for us. Cool?
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I would say time management, right? That's something that, I call myself an expert in that area, having created the time control theory, right? Which is a time management model. But sticking to that course, man, having those few hours in a day to where I can really do things outside of work and sleep, to not overwhelm myself, right? I found myself a lot of times just going back and forth where I was exhausting myself at times physically and mentally, right? So I lacked discipline in that area, and it took me a minute to get back into that state. And as I mentioned before in our last episode, I was able to do that with the support of my wife, right? She's real supportive in that, to where sometimes it takes her to be the one that say, you know what, cut it off, sit down, that's it, right? And I appreciate that, right? Because I can go and go and go and go. but I have to remember the dangers of that, right? So it's important for me to stick to that discipline of being able to properly manage my time and only do what's reasonable and not shortchange myself as far as my rest and my relaxation time.
That's what's up. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So if I can chime in right here. So for me, uh, definitely, patience, and responsibility, but mainly patience means having the discipline to be patient. Coming through the reentry center here at the Academy of Hope, the transitional home, you see a lot of other folks transitioning at different times. Like they might be ahead of you or might be behind you, but watching those guys, develop and take on responsibilities, grow, advance in life, and just really transition really made me feel like a sense of urgency as I went along. So really having patience was something that I needed to be disciplined about, because I wanted to get up and go as well. I wanted to make the money. I wanted to, get my car. I wanted to do all that good stuff and just really get on pace with life. Uh, but I knew that I needed to keep it slow in my transition, and surrounding myself with very, very a great support network like such as yourself, George, and really helped me maintain the discipline and be patient in that whole process, right? So that's really what it looked like for me. Probably the biggest and the biggest challenge I had and throughout that process. Now I'm 10 months out, and I'm feeling like things are starting to come together. Uh, I'm as a spiritual man, I believe that they're coming together in God's time, right? And when they
Right,
come together in God's time, they're coming around, they're coming together right on time, you
right,
know. So I'm liking that, you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Thank you for that. Manuel, what's
Yeah.
up, man?
I mean, for me, I experienced a little bit what Otis was talking about, what his brother's talking about with patience and me forcing myself to relax. I experienced that as well. But I think my biggest challenge for me is me imposing my what I think how things should be on family and friends.
Yeah.
You know, I base everything around time. I'm always looking at the clock, and I hear that all the time. And I had to really sit back and think, man, hey, sometimes just don't worry about, just relax, because I'm like, we going somewhere, we gotta, okay, I want to be on the road by 5, and I want to be there by this time, and then I want to leave around this time. I'm doing that before we even get there. And I'm talking, and when I'm with my family, I say, why you don't do it this way? I'm posing my will on them. And I
Yeah.
and I have to catch myself and say, look, man, you're not, because I'm a very structured, disciplined individual. That's how I became the person who I am today, by being structured, I have to, hold myself accountable. But I gotta realize that that's me, that's my stuff. It's not them. They've been out here in society and enjoying life. They got their way of doing things. And I gotta respect that and give them space to be who they are and not get frustrated because they're not concerned about time.
Right.
you know. So I have to discipline myself and say, hey, man, just relax. Let them enjoy, let them be who they. If they want to do this till 2 o'clock or not, if they got somewhere to be and they still sitting around, if they have to somewhere be at 2 o'clock and they still sitting around at 1:45, and it's going to take them 20 minutes to get there, and they okay with it, let them be okay with it. Me, I believe early is on time and on time is late. So I have to be somewhere at 2 o'clock. I'm gonna be there at 1:30. But that's just me. That's not them. And I
That's,
gotta respect that.
that's right, big brother. That's a trip, man. It made me reflect, man. I think that I kind of intellectualized discipline, if that's even a word, right? I started thinking about my discipline in prison, my discipline in the community. I think they were based on, I think, the circumstances, right? I can't do those things because of this construct, right, that I was in, if that makes any sense, right? I must stay out of trouble and I must do these things in order to go home. right? And that's just me being totally honest with. There were some things that I just wouldn't do for sure, but I think I intellectualized the discipline. One of the biggest challenges that I've faced since being home, of course, I was still on parole and things of that nature. So I'm still aligning myself in the proper discipline that it takes to, get off of parole, work, and things like that, right? The upkeep of the image and the person that I walked into, this newness, right? But a trip was the biggest challenge was getting off of parole. When they finally gave me my discharge and that lady was like, hey, man, you're no longer on parole. It was like this weird freaking switch clicked. And I didn't start doing just erratic behaviors and things like that, but I know that I started leaning a little different in my car. Right? My music was a little louder, right? I'm raising my voice a little louder in different spaces with people, right? And I just wasn't that normal Christian, polite, kind George. I'm becoming argumentative. I'm becoming challenging. I lost some of those things that I considered to be disciplined. I was a disciplined person. The working out, right? What? I ain't got to do this no more for survival, right? You ain't got to be looking buff and like I want to intimidate people and something. I could take a break. Then you put on 30, 40 pounds and you're in the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, you got to lose this weight or else. So I realized that my discipline may have been tied to the circumstances. So I say that to say one of my biggest challenges, one of my biggest strengths now is recognizing that I'm not the 17-year-old boy who got sentenced to life. I'm a 45-year-old man now, right? And the discipline has to be aligned with my morality, my integrity, my goals, my vision over my life. You know what I'm saying, brothers? Does this make sense or I go too far off? Right? Because that's what it do. Like I have so many things in front of me right now. Why aren't you studying those things? You're gonna go teach in the prison for 8 hours straight for 3 days. You should know this book front and back. Matt, you know what I'm saying? Matt, you wrote it, right? You co-wrote it. You should know this. So why? Why was the discipline based on the surroundings and the circumstances? So that's all. That's all I wanted to say. I appreciate y'all
Yeah.
listening. Rant.
That was a real nice topic, man. I like
Otis,
that.
you muted. Yeah, thank you, brother.
I like it.
He's speaking,
Try
but
to answer it a little bit.
you muted
Uh,
too.
I think because of the environment was different, right? So the different environment required different responses, right? But when we're out here, like you said, why did I have to change so many things? Why wasn't I so kind and raising my voice and all of that? So those are negative things that obviously we want to correct and get it back in order because we're representing the person of who we are, right? The change. That's what still needs to be given to the world, right? That I'm a different person that the world once knew me as. Whether you knew, you actually knew me or not, but I have a different representation I'm given, right? Kind of falls into the 5 components of self when we talk about the self-identification and then the presentation. So I got to make sure my presentation is right so I can position myself right. And if I got the right mentality, that means my conduct is going to fall right in sync with the things that society is expecting of me and the things I have set in front of me as goals. Goals and expectations I have for myself. Like I said before, I try to raise the bar high for myself because it keeps me always striving towards something, right? Um, just to try to do a little bit better, right? And at times, like I mentioned also earlier, that I can exhaust myself, right? I can get physically exhausted, mentally exhausted by pushing myself too hard. But I do like the fact that I set expectations upon myself that others don't, right? Um, and I have a good enough support system, even though I have that deficiency, for lack of better words, that hold me accountable to be like, you know what, don't do, too much. Don't overdo it. Take some time for yourself. Take a minute to think, right? And yeah, once again, the wife holds me accountable to those things, and I really appreciate that.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
George, a lot of thoughts coming through my head and just hearing both you guys speak, about that. One of the things that comes to my mind is, the biopsychosocial spiritual approach to life itself, right? And the reason why I point that out is because if for me, discipline while I was incarcerated was a little more easier because life was simple.
Yeah.
Life was simple. What I'm discovering right now in life is that there's so many intricacies to life right now. You know, as you starting to grow, you get a job, you get a car, you got insurance, you got medical issues, you got all this stuff that starts piling up on you. And if you're not balanced biopsychosocially and spiritually,
Yeah,
if you're
man.
not if you're not carrying that balance, you fall off balance, right? You're gonna
Right.
get you're gonna trip up, right? So, and I'm learning this. I'm learning this because you know, I recently had a little fender bender, and you know, it's like a setback for me. And had I not have been in a good place in all those respects, I think maybe, you know, I might have been carrying around an attitude,
Yeah.
you know, where now I'm pushing that off on other people. So the discipline level is more demanding now that I'm out here. Just
Mm.
really being on top of my stuff, making sure. So the same things I was doing in prison. One of the big things is what I consider the way of living, and that's through the 12 steps of NA. You know, I worked the 12 steps, and upon my release, I continue to do the 12 steps. I continue to go into meetings, and that's really helped me maintain that structure of my life, them having them inventories, checking myself on a regular basis, seeing where I'm at. I catch myself, you know, being stressed these days a little bit more than when I was in prison. You know, it's a different type of stress. You know, with the stress in there, you're stressing out over people trying to hate on you and looking at you and what or whatnot, right? But these days, it's a different type of stress that's hitting you. And if you're not right, man, you probably find yourself in some trouble, right? So that's what kind of comes to my mind just hearing you.
I love that.
Hey, brother Thomas. Before you came on, I was speaking on the same thing. I was saying how it was actually easier in prison, you
Mm.
know, because you don't have to worry about all the responsibilities. And but I prefer being out here. I like all the stuff society has to offer, no matter how difficult it is. I prefer being out here than there definitely, but it's challenging out here. Um, bills, family, job, you know, everything that comes with it. It's like you're saying, it was exactly what you were saying, and you wasn't even with us at the time I was speaking on that. And you hit exactly what I was talking about, man. But I say if you didn't have a strong spiritual connection or support network, you'll be in trouble out here. So
Absolutely.
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah, or
that
that peer
falls into
support. Yeah.
right, and that's because of like what he talked about. He talked about the balance, right? So the things we're trying to avoid in living this righteous, recovery lifestyle is to not fall into a state of having poor time management, poor stress management, or broken relationships, right? Because those are the top three things that can cause you either individually or collectively to fall back into a former lifestyle or former way of thinking. But as he spoke about the biopsychosocial spiritual, and I like how that's broke down in I Am in the workbook, where in each section it lets you know what it looks like in different areas of your life, your dysfunction, your rehabilitation, your recovery, right? But having that balance or being able to recognize where something is unbalanced, you can work on it, right? Because each section, according to the way we present it, there's like two subdivisions in each section. So it's like, man, let me make sure these things are balanced, right? When it comes to biological, okay, how does my nutritional intake look, right? How does my overall health look? So if I am doing an inventory, like you mentioned, I'm looking at those things and making sure that they're okay, right? They don't have to be grand, but I have to make sure that they're okay, right? It's not nothing that's pulling away from me. When it comes to the psycho aspect of our lives, our emotional regulation, are we spending all time during the day going up and down emotionally? Or do we have methods in place to keep us balanced, when we're sad, when we're depressed, and anxiety hits,
Mhm.
right? Do we have methods in place? Or even Emmanuel spoke in the earlier edition about hey, maybe we need to go speak to somebody, right? Sit down and speak to a therapist or something. But also in that area is our ability to learn and teach something, right? Am I spending the time to either fulfill myself or to help someone else be fulfilled through an educational process? And then when it comes to social, these are very important components. And this is where that support comes from. We're either talking about community ties or family relations, right? So as I do my inventory, what do those things look like, right? How am I tied into my community? How am I making sure I build upon these family relations that I have, right? And then when it comes to spirituality, it's like, hey, my higher power, right? Am I really surrendering, or am I just sitting back saying, no, you know what? I'm the best thing going, right? Wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, oh, this is all here because of me. Am I working out of that attitude, right? And it's like, how's that working out for you, right? So am I staying spiritually connected, whether it's on a great degree or whether it's on a small degree? How am I connected spiritually, and how can I grow in that area as well? So when we look into those, 8 subsections or subdivisions of each area, that's where we got to make sure that balance is, right? And we'll see the fulfillment, like, man, this is enough for me. This is enough. And then we just grow, and we just grow, and we just grow.
That's right. Thank you, Otis, man. Very, very well said. And thank you for that too, Thomas, bringing up that biopsychosocial as well as you, Emmanuel, man. It's always a pleasure to be blessed in your presence, man. So this is what we're going to say, man. Thank you for reminding me as well what it means and what it looks like to have different perspectives of discipline and things of that nature, right? I love the fact that being able to identify those character defects is a great discipline in itself, right? So you can correct those things. We're talking about getting loud with people or whatever the case may be. It's only because of my ability to recognize it, right, that I'm able to correct that stuff. So with that said, man, thank you for another edition of Camera On. We're looking forward to you all being able to receive this and just sit down and mull over what the brothers are saying. And we'll be back, man. And we thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for joining us, man. I appreciate each and every one of you guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate our viewers. And if anybody got a topic they want to possibly hear us talk about, put it in the comments.
I am.
Yeah.